Good morning. This is Jason D coming at you again from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Thursday at about 9:50, so hope everyone's doing good. The weather here has really been sucking big time here in Mid Coast. I've had school school break. I start my summer schedule next week at the Montessori school, and I've had all week off, so I've been just kind of chilling out. Had some practices canceled and they removed a little bit, so I had some extra time. I'm gonna probably go up to Bull Moose, surprise, surprise, maybe today. And yeah, so it's been rainy. Hoping that the weather's okay for this weekend. 'Cause I have two shows outside this weekend, so I'm hoping it will be okay. That's one thing that kind of blows sometimes about playing gigs outside is that you really have to watch the weather. And the weather in Mid Coast, Maine in general, is pretty unpredictable sometimes. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. We have a quantum show coming up on Saturday for the big summer solstice. Last year we played there and it actually rained, but we still played and it was kind of crazy. Somehow we made it work. It rained off and on numerous times, but I have this giant tarp and we were able to still play. And I didn't. I had it with me and we would play. It was literally like a 2 hour set, and we played, maybe 20 minutes, half hour. Then it would start raining. Then we covered everything up, took a break. Then it stopped raining, and then we played another 35 minutes, and then the same thing happened. Took another break, and the whole set was like that. It was a little bit crazy, but somehow we still technically played. We ended up playing probably about an hour and a half, and it was pretty funny. It was a pretty funny turn of events that day because that day I had another gig that I was supposed to do later that night, and it was in Searsmont, which is a half hour or so from Rockland, where the gig was with Quantum. And I was, I I had it relatively planned out because of that. Where that happens, you get double booked and whatever, or not double booked, but you know that you have one gig and then you get this other opportunity to play another gig, and you're like, okay, I can maybe make this work, and you look at the logistics of the timing and all these things. And what I've been doing when that happens is I've been able to set up my drums at the other venue, and that's what I did. I had gone to that the gig was at Threshers in Searsmont, and I went there early in the day and set up all my drums, and then I had my Quantum stuff with me, and then set up my stuff there, and then went to the Rockland gig and played there, and then I got out. We got out about 15 minutes early, and then I was still thinking I was going to cut it close, and I kind of raced out of there. Took a bunch of back roads, and I made pretty good time. And it was funny because I was, a little bit, I felt like I was cutting it close with time, but I got there and nobody else was there, and I couldn't believe that I beat the rest of the band. Uh, I was the first one who showed up, and I was just like blown away by it. It's pretty funny. This week, so Saturday, with the weather impending and stuff, because it is what it is, I have the same kind of scenario, but it's probably a little bit better because I have a gig Saturday night in Camden at the Gypsy Rose, where I'm going to be playing drums with Patricia Mason, who's a really great singer songwriter. And so I'm going to set up my drums there. That's the plan. Set up my drums there on Saturday. Go do the Quantum show. Probably end about 10 or 15 minutes early, which would give me about an hour. And then race over to Gypsy and set up. But we'll see what happens. That stuff happens, like where, and it's not a case of double booking. It's like, you know, it's summertime and even in general when things like that come up, and it's a little bit stressful. It's a lot of work sometimes when you got to do those kinds of things. But at the same time, you know, the gigs are usually good money and they're usually fun, and I want to try to be involved with the stuff as much as I can. So if logistically if I can make it work, I'll do it. If it's too close, then I won't do it. But and it's happened a couple of times, and I haven't screwed up anything yet so far, knock on wood. So we'll see. The season is just kind of starting, so we'll see what happens. But it's all part of the. It all comes with the territory. It is funny how there does seem to be like an area of heavy concentrated gigs that are always in the summertime. So everybody and their grandmother is scrambling to book gigs and to play gigs because we live in a seasonal place, and that's kind of if you're making your living doing it or making a source of your income off of it, and just people who want to do it just for as a weekend hobby, it's a thing that people really try to do, and becomes a hustle to try to book those gigs and to try to make those things happen. And it's a little bit more of a situation for people who where it's a part of their a big part of their income and their livelihood, um, to try to make it work. And for me, uh, that's a big thing for me. So I try to make it work a little bit more, and and it usually works out for the most part. But anyway, so yeah, very excited about this next Quantum show. Really excited. I finished a new song last night. I've had some time off, so I've been started writing this new tune, a couple weeks ago, and then last couple days I put a lot more time into it, and I think I finished it. And last night was great. I put in a little more time, and I think I finished it. Pretty much a brand new tune. So, and again, it's always that funny process because the gist of the tune I've had for a couple of months, and being that I have had time off, and I try to do it anyway. I try to do it every day, but I was messing around with it a lot, and especially the last 2 days. And I came up with a couple other parts, and then I was like, huh, okay. Put them together, tried a bunch of different things, and then next thing I know, I was like, oh wait, this is cool. Like this could actually work. And next thing I know, I feel like I have a fully realized tune. So it's very cool. I love having. One of the things that I love to do is that I love to keep working at the stuff all the time. I try not to take a day off from working on music because it feels like even though it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time, and it can be kind of consuming in some ways. I feel like I just need to do it, and I love doing it. It's super hard. It's challenging, and it's not just about the songwriting process, which writing music for me is my number one priorities with Quantum. But everything that it entails with like a regular practice regimen that I have, where I like typically working on the Quantum tunes. I'm always kind of trying to tighten those up, material that we have, the songs that we have already, and that we've been playing out. I'm always tweaking them. And then we have a lot of material, so a lot of the times I also spend a lot of time where I'm, kind of revisiting older songs that we haven't done in a while. And when I start doing that, like lately, I've been doing that, and I have been kind of tweaking them and making some significant changes to the tunes to make them a little bit better, I think. So, and then I run through when we have gigs coming up. One of the things I like to do is to try to obviously try to tighten the songs and get them together, but I like to put together some sets of music of where what I like to try to do with that band whenever we play is to have like a continuous mix of music for the most part. So I try to work on building the tunes, but then creating these like segues between the songs, and without and doing that without necessarily having a set list. So I try to like make it into this thing of where I can, whatever tune it is, I can hopefully make a pretty smooth transition between the two songs, even if it's a song that is say more, a real ambient bass song, or maybe it's a faster kind of dance tune, or maybe it's a mid tempo tune. I try to mix it up, and because I feel like not only is it a science to try to develop the material and the songs and make them as good, but the other separate science behind it is to try to like make the tunes, to segue the songs, and to try to like keep it continuous and to make it feel cohesive, the transitions, even stylistically, even if certain songs are radically different from each other. Sometimes that's almost more fun to try to do that. But that's a big challenge, and so I work on those things all the time. And then the other thing that I work on is writing lots of new material when I can, and that's a very slow process, but it happens, and I've been fortunate to do that a lot lately. So I spend a lot of time doing that too, and then when I'm getting ready for a show or gigs that we have, and luckily we've been pretty busy with the band. I spend most of the time probably just working on building the sets, getting the songs together, trying to get the parts back because it's a lot of, there's a lot of things going on in a lot of the songs and there's a lot to remember. So I focus on that. But when I'm in the writing mode, I'll usually take a day or two to maybe just focus on that. But there's like 10,000 different things to work on when it comes to just quantum. And then the other thing I like to do is practice drums, and so I practice drums, try to do that every day, where I have a handful of albums and things of where I am trying to learn a lot of these new tunes or older songs, but for me they're very new or very, very hard. And I have a group of albums that I'm always working on, so I'm always like trying to play along with certain tunes and try to learn the parts basically and learn them as I go. And then I also have another practice regimen that I use where I work on different styles. So that all of those things take up a tremendous amount of time, and I find it, for me it's very hard, but it's also a lot of fun. But I try to do it every day, and especially if it's things that are really hard, particularly if I'm trying to learn a tune that is really kicking my butt, or I'm really stumped as to where to go for a song. I find for me, if I do it every day, I don't like to generally take a day off. The only days that I usually do take off from playing or practicing is the day of a gig. I don't usually practice the day of if I have a show. But other than that, I try to always do it. And I find what helps that process for me is if I do it every day, it seems that new ideas and new ways to adapt come to me a little bit quicker as opposed to if I take days off. So yeah, that's just part of the weird process. But today's show is yet another video review for the stack of movies that I got at Opera House Video, and I'm super excited. I have gotten through a lot of these videos. I just started watching uh, my first Blu-ray that I bought, one of the Blu-rays I bought, and that is the Quentin Tarantino movie Django Unchained. I started watching that last night, and it was weird. The power went out here at the house. I started watching it a little bit on the later side, but what an awesome movie. I hadn't seen it in so long. I forgot how brutally violent it is. I love this movie, but I completely forgot. I've only seen it once, which is crazy, and I bought it on Blu-ray. So I just started watching it, so I'm going to do a review on that when I finish it. But I did finish another freaking movie that I hadn't seen in years, but uh, I've seen it so many times, and that is Big Trouble in Little China, directed by the one and only John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell. This movie is just so amazing. I think it's easily one of the best John Carpenter movies. I love this movie to death. I picked this up at Opera House Video during their sale for $3. It's a DVD copy, but it's actually really good quality copy. And I don't own this. I don't think I have this. It's weird. I have a lot of John Carpenter's one of my favorite directors, and I have quite a few of his films on DVD and Blu-ray, The Fog and Halloween and a few others. But I don't have Big Trouble in Little China. I don't even think I have I've had a copy. I don't think I have the copy of this on VHS, going back even further, or I don't think I had a copy of this on DVD, which is weird because this is one of my favorite movies. The other movie that I really, really love, which I don't have, which is kind of a crime that I need to get, is Escape from New York. I freaking love that movie. I I need to get that on Blu-ray at some point, but I don't own a copy of that either. But this movie, Big Trouble in Little China, starring Kurt Russell, came out in 1988, and I have not seen this movie in years. And I forgot. And again, I've seen this movie so many times. Or sorry, this came out in 1986. Um, and I forgot that I had not seen this movie in quite a few years, and I totally forgot it. But I grew up watching this movie. This was like a regular staple for me as a kid. With being a huge fan of John Carpenter, and of course that started with Halloween. So yeah, I just think that this movie is such a great story. It's a very different film, I think, to a degree for John Carpenter. It's more of a playful comedy. It's a fantasy movie. It's not a horror movie really at all. So it's very different tone wise, and it's kind of like a family film to a degree, but it's still got amazing practical effects. Kurt Russell is just amazing in this movie. I think it's one of his best roles. He really is just incredible in this movie. The whole science fiction fantasy, the occult element in this movie is just so awesome. Considering that this came out in '86, I love the practical effects in this movie. I love the fight sequences. I just think they're so awesome. It's all practical. There's obviously no CGI, and it's pretty much all in camera. But I love this movie because it's so creative. I love the whole premise. I love that there's um, a lot of humor in this movie. It's really funny. It's kind of a slapstick comedy at times, but it's also got some heart and soul, and it's a great adventure. It's a really great adventure movie, and a really great adventure story. I think it's a movie that you could watch with your kids, but it's one of those movies that it's got attributes and things about it that appeal to adults and to kids. It's such a fun movie as opposed to say a movie like The Fog or Halloween, which is those are definitely straight up horror films. But those movies also I would say that those are you could watch those with your kids. If I had kids, I'd watch them with them. But this is definitely more of a family oriented kind of film. But the use of the imagination that John Carpenter had, the creativity, it's just so awesome. And just the originality of this movie. I don't really see too many movies a lot of the times that are this original, like especially newer movies. Lately, I've been seeing newer movies that have been coming out that have been a little bit too much like a movie that came out before it or was influenced by it. It's been a little bit this thing lately that I find has been happening where it's been everything's been kind of trendy, and so and everything has been most of the movies I've seen some really great ones, but one of the things too is that a lot of the movies are really dark and it's not that I don't love. I do love dark movies and dark stories. But the thing is that they're very very serious. They're like really really tight and very very serious and kind of heavy. And they deal with trauma and but what I love about this movie, which is great, but what I love about this movie is that there's a fun aspect of it. It's got some heart and soul, but it delivers the goods. It's not taking itself so seriously. It's got a cool balance of action, incredible action, the science fiction element, the fantasy element, a little bit of horror thrown in there with the monster creatures, but it's got a lot of great humor and it's got some heart, and it's fun. It doesn't take itself so seriously, and I think that's a problem sometimes with newer films is that And then just the use of just seeing how original this film is, the pure imagination that you see on screen. So creative, so creative. And considering, this is a really, by today's standards, an incredibly low budget movie, and just how everything just pops off the screen. It's awesome. And I definitely need to buy this on Blu-ray at some point. I will, in my quests and my journeys, I will, keep my eyes peeled for it. But damn, what a good movie! I forgot how amazing it is. Again, like I said, I think it's easily one of the best movies that Kurt Russell's ever done in his career, and especially with his collaborations with John Carpenter being The Thing, which is my favorite John Carpenter movie of all time, and Escape from New York, which is phenomenal, just phenomenal masterpiece. So yeah, I think, and then he also did the other movie that he did with John Carpenter, that where Kurt Russell and John Carpenter worked together, was Escape from L.A., which was the sequel to Escape from New York, which I have not seen in years. I do want to see it again. I don't remember it being that great of a movie, but I kind of want to see it again, and I probably will. I know it's a. I think that, from what I remember from Escape from L.A., it was a little bit more of a goofy kind of comedy kind of a thing. It was a lot lighter than. Because Escape from New York is like really intense and super dark. It's like a western meets like a film noir kind of a thing. But I I haven't seen it in years, but I do want to see it again. And that came out quite a few years ago now. And there's talks that there might be another one. There might be a third one where it's going to take place where Kurt Russell's obviously much older, and it's going to take place in space. But I don't know. We'll see. John Carpenter's getting up there in age, and he hasn't made a movie in years. So he's really active as a composer. He's been doing music for all kinds of films, and he's been producing films. So he's still been really active, but just not as a director. So I don't know. But thanks again. This is Jason Dean. Get a chance. Most people out there have probably seen this movie, but I kind of don't feel I hear this movie talked about enough. Big Trouble in Little China, Kurt Russell, 1986. And yet again, another John Carpenter masterpiece. We will see you next time. Peace.